Wildlife photography? Oh, it's super easy. Just point your camera at an animal, hit burst mode, and voila, you're a pro. At least, that's what some people say. I've heard it so many times I've lost count. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, they've got a point. Or do they? Let's find out. Let's be real. When people think of wildlife photographers, they picture some Indiana Jones type surviving in the wild for a year, only to return with one epic shot of a creature nobody's ever seen before. Sounds pretty legendary, right? But with more people picking up cameras and social media pulling back the curtain, that mystical jungle hermit vibe is starting to fade. And for some folks, there's this lingering question: what's so hard about wildlife photography anyway? I mean, we don't light or pose our subjects. We're not setting up dramatic props or risking life and limb in war zones. We just sit in a safari vehicle, slap on a lens that costs more than a car, and point it at a lion. Meow. Easy, right? Well, is it really? My name is Terence and I've been a wildlife photographer for more than 10 years. I am currently a Nikon ambassador and my aim is to help you learn more about wildlife photography. And today, we're discussing what wildlife photography is all about and its differences to other genres of photography. When people think of wildlife photography, it's all about braving sweltering jungles or freezing Arctic tundras, dodging bugs, and hoping not to get too close to anything with teeth or claws. But today, I'm not here to talk about the drama of the wild. Instead, let's dig into the side of wildlife photography most people don't know about, the behind-the-scenes realities, and some pretty common misconceptions. For many photographers, it's all about mastering light. As you dive deeper into photography, artificial lighting becomes the game changer. Portrait, commercial, and wedding photographers know this all too well. From picking up the right lights and modifiers to nailing angles and textures for lighting, lighting is often seen as one of the hardest skills to master. But does that mean that wildlife photographers don't have to worry about lighting at all? Not so fast. Wildlife photographers work with a very different kind of challenge. We rely almost entirely on natural light, and that's no small feat. The unpredictability of daylight forces us to adapt constantly, mastering every nuance of the natural world to create standout images. And it doesn't just stop there. Some wildlife photographers do use supplemental lighting. Think underwater, macro, or reptile photography, situations where controlled light is key and allowed without disturbing the subject. From 2 or 3 point lighting to basic modifiers, there's still a learning curve. The tricky part? Lighting a subject that doesn't stay still or follow directions. At the end of the day, no matter your genre, mastering light, be it natural or artificial, is a must for any advanced photographer. The real skill lies in making the most out of what you have to work with. Ever heard the saying, a great photo isn't made during the shoot, it's made in the planning? Turns out, it's true. Pre-production is just as important, sometimes even more, than the actual moments you click the shutter. Think about it. In other photography genres, you plan every single detail. What location to use, props to bring, outfits for your models, and even backup plans for bad weather. Wildlife photography, on the other hand, no models, no fancy props, no set dressing. So does that mean that we just wing it? Not exactly. Sure, a casual wildlife photographer might grab their camera and head to the nearest nature reserve to shoot whatever comes their way. Minimal planning required. But for serious wildlife photographers, it's a whole different story. Whether it's capturing a specific species or nailing that one dream shot, planning is everything. For us, pre-production looks more like research. What time an animal appears, where it's most likely to show up, how it behaves, and even how the weather might influence your chances. And yes, we're still at the mercy of Mother Nature, so even the best laid plans can fall apart. But every bit of preparation increases the odds of being in the right place at the right time. Because, let's be honest, sometimes luck does favor the prepared. So, let's talk about the big question. Is wildlife photography really just an expensive hobby with a huge financial barrier to entry? Is it as simple as dropping the price of a car on a fancy lens and poof, you're a wildlife photographer? I'll admit, photography itself can be pricey, but here's the good news, it doesn't have to be. Not all telephoto lenses come with jaw-dropping price tags. Sure, there are those $20,000 beasts out there, but you can also find great options for around $2,000 and even used lenses for under $1,000 that work just fine. And guess what? Not every wildlife photographer even uses telephoto lenses. I've had some success with a basic kit lens, and others use macro or wide-angle lenses, proving that it's not all about the big expensive gear. Now, don't get me wrong, investing in higher-end lenses can increase your chances of capturing stunning shots, but the idea that you have to spend a fortune to enjoy wildlife photography, that's just not true. There are workarounds, and creativity matters way more than the size of your lens budget. Here's something people don't talk about enough. Using a telephoto lens is a skill in itself. Let me break it down for you. If you've never tried to aim a 400 or 600mm lens at a bird, you might not realize just how tricky it is to actually find your subject in the frame. With most normal lenses or anything under 200mm, aiming is easy. You just point in the general direction and boom, you've got your shot. But with those giant telephoto lenses, it's a whole different game. Learning to aim and track a moving subject with a huge lens takes time and practice. And those few seconds of fumbling to locate your subject, that could be the difference between nailing the shot and watching the animal run off. Trust me, it's a skill that does not come overnight. Wildlife photography is one of those genres where it's totally normal not to take home any images from a shoot. Unlike other types of photography where you can pretty much expect to get something decent after a shoot, wildlife photography is unpredictable, and sometimes the shoot just doesn't go according to plan. Why is that? Well, first off, we're dealing with living creatures here. Animals do not follow a script or listen to directions. Unlike models in a studio or objects in a controlled setting, they can take off at any given moment, and you might not even see the one you came to capture. So while you might spend hours or even days waiting for the right moment, there's no guarantee that you will get that perfect shot. In addition, nature throws its own curveballs. Bad weather, low visibility, or the animals simply not showing up when and where you expect them. That's just the nature of the beast. You might plan the perfect shoot, but all of a sudden, the subject disappears or the light shifts or a sudden downpour ruins your chance. And that's not even mentioning the patience required. Sometimes you'll just sit there waiting for hours and get absolutely nothing. It's the ultimate test of persistence and adaptability, which is what makes wildlife photography so unique and honestly so rewarding when you finally get that shot. So while in many other genres of photography, you can be fairly confident you'll walk away with something, in wildlife photography, you've got to be okay with not getting anything at all. It's part of the thrill, and it makes those rare moments when everything comes together even more special. The commercial side of wildlife photography is a lot more complex than the other genres of photography, like weddings or commercials. While shooting a wedding or corporate ad is more straightforward in terms of demand and revenue, there's always a market for those types of photos. Wildlife photography requires us to navigate a much broader and much more varied landscape to make it profitable. For starters, the market for wildlife images is niche. While wildlife enthusiasts, conservation groups, or magazines might need quality photos, the volume is not as high as the demand for, say, portraits or event photography. This means that to make a living, wildlife photographers typically need to diversify their income sources. It's not just about selling prints or licensing photos to magazines anymore. Many wildlife photographers find success by tapping into multiple revenue streams. They might license their images to stock photo websites, which can generate passive income over time. Others might teach photography workshops or give talks to supplement their income. Some even write books or create content for brands that align with their work. Additionally, partnerships with conservation organizations or ecotourism companies can open doors to paid assignments or collaborations. Even social media has become a revenue stream in its own right. With the right following, influencers in the wildlife photography space can collaborate with brands or monetize their content through platforms like YouTube, Instagram, or Patreon. However, unlike more predictable photography genres, there is no single guaranteed path to success in wildlife photography. It requires creativity, persistence, and the ability to wear multiple hats. So, is wildlife photography easy? The short answer is not really. It might seem like a dream job, spending your days in beautiful, wild locations capturing incredible animals, but there is so much more that goes into it than just pointing a camera at a lion or at an eagle. It's about the constant planning and research, the unpredictability of working with living creatures, the patience to wait for that perfect moment, and the understanding that sometimes, even with all your preparation, you might leave empty-handed. And while the gear is important, it's not just about having the most expensive lens. It's about the skill, timing, and adaptability to use what you've got in often challenging conditions. On the commercial side, making a career out of wildlife photography is not as straightforward as shooting weddings or commercial ads. It's about diversifying your income stream, whether that's through stock photos, workshops, social media, or partnership. It's a balance of passion, persistence, and strategy to make it work. So, is it easy? Definitely not. But for those who love it, the rewards, both in terms of personal satisfaction and the rare, breathtaking shots that come from it, make all the challenges worth it. If you are up for the grind, the world of wildlife photography can be an incredibly rewarding and fulfilling journey. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out my other video here where I talk about the myths of wildlife photographers or what I've learned over my 10-year journey as a wildlife photographer.